What is loneliness? It's kind of a dry Western psychology explanation, definition, but loneliness is an unpleasant emotional response to perceived isolation. It's a state of distress or discomfort that results when one perceives a gap between one's desires for social connection and the actual experiences of it. Okay, next slide. These are the things where I'm like, okay, but where's the meat of it? The meat of it is understanding there's what is loneliness versus aloneness. This is rarely talked about. Loneliness is a lack of healthy biological necessary social connection, right? There is a need, and that need changes over time, but everyone here has a need. Maybe it's a few times a week, maybe it's every day, maybe it's once a month. There's somewhere that you can dial into if you know yourself well enough, where you go, okay, I need to go out and communicate and hang and dance and be in a crowd or whatever it is. But you shouldn't be doing it blindly, right? Because a lot of that could be avoidance. That is the aloneness part, being comfortable with being alone. Right? When we start out in life, most of our activities, because there's no built-in time to learn to be comfortable with yourself. It never happens. You're in school, you're at home, you're going through the institutions of life, then you get into the job life. There's no built-in time ever for you to learn to get comfortable with yourself. And so there's an avoidance of emotions and feelings and the stuff that you inherit from past generations and your parents and all this stuff that never gets processed because we don't sit with ourselves ever. And that then builds up and it dictates the quality of our relationships with ourselves, with partners, with our environment. So all this stuff needs to be unearthed, but that is where alone time, me time, quality time comes in. And then at some point later, we do realize and recognize, oh my gosh, that's the most important time, right? But in the beginning, we tend to, just because of the socialization, the conditioning of how we grow up, we really don't spend a lot of time with ourselves. We're not comfortable being alone. We're not even comfortable. A few seconds of stillness or silence in a conversation. We just start talking, just anything, just to override the stillness. Doesn't even matter what. Fill it. Fill the stillness. And so this just keeps going till somebody somehow shows us there's another way. So learning to really know yourself, so that you can tell what the difference is. Where's the line between your actual physical, biological need to be with people, right? Being around people lifts your mood. You can't really be depressed in a group. Somebody's going, the average of the group is going to lift you up, unless you're in a group of lots of depressed people. Then you're all depressed. But generally speaking, which is why, when you look at the community here, right, there's just the way everything's in family compounds and so forth. You can't be depressed without somebody seeing you and like catching you and being able to say, do you need help? Do you need support? You're never in isolation long enough because you're in the community all the time. It has pros and cons as well, but in terms of depression and getting really lonely, it's hard to get away with it. But in the Western world, we're so isolated all the time. We can go home, especially with remote work, and there's no one really there to balance us out energetically. So when you're in a group, in a crowd, it is healthy, right? There's a healthy aspect to that. There's a visceral, you can feel it, right? When you're just with a group, there's the spark, the energy, it just lifts your mood. Ideas, somebody comes in with something, the whole thing gets heightened. And that's the same in work environments as well. I've done many startups. It's like no one has ever come up with an idea on their own that was as good as when you have a group come together and collaborate on something. There's always something special, and everyone has different angles and views on whatever the topic is, and it comes to life. You can see that creative spark jump around. And just sitting by yourself and trying to come up with something is just, you have a very narrow view on it based on your life experiences. But bring more life experiences together and suddenly there's magic there. So this is a super important thing. Does anyone here, just even hearing this, reflecting on your own life, what would you say is the time that you spend that, how much alone time do you spend in general, just like on an average, day or week? Is it half your days you're by yourself, or you're always trying to get out, or 90%? 90% in with friends, with people? Oh, 90% alone. Okay. Amazing. So, anyone else? 70% alone? 60? Okay.
I guess I'm
50? 50?
Yeah, I'm trying 50-50.
50-50? And the time that you spend alone, do you spend it on true reflection, or do you sit there suffering thinking you're lonely?
Distract
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, 35% I'm distracted.
Okay. And distraction, is it... Describe the distraction. Just a distraction.
For me, it's like watching some videos, shorts,
Okay.
And getting into getting a new knowledge too. For me, because I catch myself on that. Oh yeah, I need to read this. I need to read this. Oh, more and more and more. My work, but not work. Mindfulness, blah blah blah. For me, it's escaping from suffering. From my perspective.
Okay. And even though you're, learning things, or watching stuff that's interesting or accumulating, it's still it's basically in reaction to avoiding being with yourself.
For me, there is a small, understandable, like a gap between a successful learning and unsuccessful. And I'm trying right now to find out for myself what time I'm watching something, because I really want to know something more, and what time I'm just trying to escape my own suffering with myself.
Yes. Okay. Awesome. That's exactly what this is about. It's like, where's that fine line? And that's amazing. But you're already aware of it, so that's good. And then you're just trying to really breathe some more space into that, so you can more clearly see it. Cool. And what somebody else mentioned the same thing, distraction mostly?
Yeah. Some healthy, like walking.
Mm-hmm.
I walk like an hour or two a day.
Mm-hmm.
Studying on Duolingo, like an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Reading books. But then a lot of it is just scrolling.
Mm-hmm.
Social media.
Okay. All right.
I think for me, it's like depends on my state. And mostly I quite enjoy my own
Mm-hmm.
or doing things on my own, as long as it's intentional, and I spend like probably half the time reflection. I reflect on myself, like those like personal learning. But sometimes when I'm a bit overwhelmed by the circumstances or by my emotions, like I just push it away and find distractions. And what you really is just not to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's when I'm not motivated. So I
Okay.
start searching for distractions.
Okay.
Waste time.
Okay. All right. But so it's a mix of things.
Yeah.
And I mean, everyone's able to reflect on that and actually realize what's going on, right? While you're in it, do you also realize what's going on, or is it more like in hindsight?
I think I'm aware of that, but it's just like I'm not willing to cope with that at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah, but afterwards I'm like, oh, actually, I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
But also the other thing is, like when I felt the need, I want to go out to socialize. I don't know if that's my true, authentic needs, or it's just like, oh, I feel like I have to go out. Yeah. So
Yes.
yeah, I want to listen to my intuition more.
Yeah.
And just feeling like the pressure. I feel like, oh, I'm wasting time like in the house on my own. I should go out to meet people, but I don't know why.
Yeah.
Maybe just that social expectation or some.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember this wasn't actually that long ago. Most of my life I was in relationships or surrounded by a lot of good friends. And so it was well into my 30s that it was the first time I ever went out to eat to a restaurant by myself. And it wasn't even at a table, it was at the counter where people who are by themselves are supposed to go and eat. And I remember sitting there and like getting, it hit me. It's like, do people think I'm weird? I was like, are they looking at me? And I was like, and I was, I thought I was a little more evolved than that, but I wasn't. And that there was this fear of being seen alone and loneliness. And to me, it was like, where does this come from? It was crazy. So then I said, okay, I'm going to come here every, once or twice a week until, I move through this somehow and just notice my feelings. A lot of it is just noticing, allowing yourself to feel that, not react to it, but just allow your feelings. Okay, it comes and goes. You're uncomfortable. If people are looking at me, they're looking at me, but just kind of move through it. I didn't have the tools then that I have now, but in general, on a basic level, that's how we do it. It's just, put yourself in that position again and stay aware. Just stay aware of everything that's happening. There's so many different things. It could be stuff from childhood and from being in grade school and feeling like you're an outsider and people leave you alone. So this stuff will bubble up, but you have to give it an opportunity, give it the space, give it the time to bubble up, and sit there with it. And it's uncomfortable, but it won't kill you. There's just feelings. They can be tough, but it won't kill you. It won't actually kill you, even if it feels like it does. And just let it surface. Let it start processing the stuff, because it's doing a lot more damage staying stuck deep inside. That's when we wind up avoiding situations, or we bring that into relationships, and that's where we feel triggered. Whenever we feel triggered, it's something stuck that we haven't processed. That's what's reacting. So working with these traumas or fears or phobias or whatever's stuck in us, so that I can finally release and get out of our system.
Can I ask you a question? I somehow lost the connection between me, for example, just trying to do something every day, and loneliness. Did I get it right that loneliness for you is an ability to just be with yourself without doing something, right?
So loneliness is the unhealthy interpretation, right? Meaning I'm not good enough, or nobody likes me, and it has roots. Who knows where it has roots? But it's suffering. Whereas aloneness is getting to know yourself. That it can be hard too, but it's a different mindset. I'm learning. I'm working on stuff. I'm exploring. Right. The loneliness is kind of like you feel lonely and you don't really do much with that. You then distract yourself or try to avoid it, feeling what you're feeling. So that's kind of the distinction. So getting comfortable, converting loneliness into aloneness is kind of the transition that you want to get to. So I hope that helped.
Yeah. I mean, for me, loneliness, the term loneliness is quite different, because I'm feeling okay with myself. It feels more than that I'm good with everybody, with myself too, but it's so important for me to have like a goal for this day, or a direction of where I'm moving on, or a purpose why I'm doing that. And I guess that sometimes, like, I'm finding myself in a state where I'm just scrolling really bad videos, like shorts, like shorts and story, like Instagram videos, reels. How they made, they're so triggering for me, and I'm feeling like I'm on the drugs. It's so hard to. I just consciously understand. Okay, what I'm doing, I need to go somewhere. I have some stuff to do, but I cannot just escape this state, just laying on the bed and watching something else. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's an addiction to social media. But we'll actually talk about that. And they're designed, and I was on the design side, right? It's like, where do people tap? Where is their natural position when they're holding it in one hand, two hands, and then what's closest, the CTA closest to your thumb and all that. So I was actually on the other side of that. try, and it's all about experimenting. Everyone's different. Everyone has a unique life path and internal makeup. And so what happens when you just sit still? Once you're already scrolling, you're kind of in it already. But before it gets to that point, it's easier to this kind of like distinguish what's happening. Is like, just sit still for 10 seconds. What do you feel? What comes up?
Now I have more extreme experience with myself. I was doing some meditation and zazen meditation. So you have to just look on the wall for an hour without painting, just a plain wall with plain color. And for a few, I guess, minutes, it's completely frustrating for you. On the 12 minutes, maybe 30 minutes, there is some growing. How to explain that? I would say a growing small. I would like to say pain, but it's not pain. It's just inability to stand still, and it's growing, and this could be really just tough to meditate for an hour. But sometimes it works in a different way. Like, okay, you're sitting like for 3, maybe 4 minutes, and you're feeling joy. It's not like joy. It's joy in perspective. It's like the opposite of having suffering. I would say like that. Yeah. It's not like the joy from the ice cream or something. It's just feeling good by just not feeling good.
Yeah. So those are the benefits and the experiences of meditation. We'll talk about that today. And it could be different each time, or different types of meditation, of course. So you're already doing a lot towards like just kind of creating stillness within, right? And it's really the mind, that type of meditation, other types of meditation. Mind is used to being in the driver's seat. It's constantly controlling things, everything it wants to control. It's obsessed with knowing, right? Anything that's unknown, it wants to assign meaning to, which is your whole life. That's why the mind plans out your whole life. Till the day you're dead, you kind of have a plan already. And every new stage, every new year, every new birthday, every new phase of life you enter, there's already a huge set of expectations there, and you're like, where did that come from? That's media, it's imprints, it's just this picture that we create, but it's primarily the mind, which is a control freak, that is projecting into the unknown, because we're empowering it to navigate for us, but it's not a good navigator. It's somebody mentioned your intuition, right? That's our navigator, right? That's what tells us something resonates and what doesn't. The mind this is how you wind up in analysis paralysis or choice overload. All it can do is compare. It doesn't know you. It doesn't know your truth. That's not your truth. So exercises, meditations like that bring you more and more in touch with your truth. You can start living more and more from your body. Mind is great for certain things. It's great for information gathering. It's great for executing once you have made a decision. But making the decision, what really matters for you, that has to come from within. So yeah, keep exploring that. There's different types of meditation, but that's what it's all about: self-knowledge, knowing yourself. Okay. There's some historical roots of loneliness that are, interesting from an evolutionary standpoint. Being in a herd ensures your survival, right? So if loneliness comes in, it drives you back to the herd, and that's where you're safe. So, nothing should be vilified ever. It just needs to be seen in context. From a community standpoint, which we already talked about, there's accountability. You step up. Most people, they start a family, they become a better person. They want to step up to the plate because now they have responsibility. They're being seen. They have, a sense of having to be a caregiver or provide safety, also provide safety back. So there's all these real reasons, evolutionary reasons for loneliness. You feel supported, the social bond when you're in a group. So these things are valid. They're absolutely valid. We have a new element today that is the conditioning, right, of loneliness. So our upbringing. I remember my mom telling me a story of how she saw, I was maybe two and a half, and she said she would see me standing at the window pointing outside, and she would look and there would be kids playing and all that. And so she went to my dad and she said, we need to get Christopher a sibling, and because he wants to play. And she had read education books at the time that said that it's good for kids to socialize amongst others. So if anytime you were a child and you were seen by yourself, a parent or a teacher or somebody would come running and say, go play with the others. So you get imprinted with this idea that being by yourself is not good or not desirable or something. Deep down, you're just a kid, but it's sending a message that being by yourself is not accepted. So it already starts very early. And then they did have a brother for me, and I wound up playing Legos all day by myself. No interest in the brother. Social media, right? What that constantly generates, the FOMO, the fear of missing out, like everyone's having the greatest time, everyone looks perfect, and I'm sitting here by myself, and I'm not as pretty as they are. I'm not as where it's happening. And that makes you feel, right, lonely, and not worthy. Groupthink, just being part of a group, going back to the herd mentality thing, right? That you need to, you don't have to think about yourself when you're in the herd, when you're in the group, and that takes care of a lot of problems on the surface, but you're not getting to know yourself any better. I know people, groups that over decades you can see the behavior, where the group is so strong that no one individualizes. No one really works on themselves because the group keeps doing the same things and getting together and the same routines and all that. And nobody really starts looking inside of themselves, but not much. So that's another thing that, and we're constantly, meeting friends, going out, what's the next event, all these things. The years go by, the decades go by doing that. And you're never, night after night, weekend after weekend, you're never spending the time on yourself. You just keep going out. And that has its values. It builds contrast in other ways. It'll motivate you in other ways. You're learning what resonates and what doesn't in other ways, but you got to know yourself first. You really have to spend time on yourself before you can navigate life in a meaningful way. And so we don't get to do that as kids. We get to this age, and now we're suddenly don't have direction or think there needs to be more than my 9-to-5 job, or maybe the 9-to-5 is great, but that's not the industry. I mean, there's so many things, and we wake up and go I need to find myself. Yes.
Question right here. In comparison with a group thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And group movements, group awareness, group growth.
Mm-hmm.
What people, the individuals, should supposed to find inside of them? Because I've tried.
Mm-hmm.
This is the grounding of my question.
Mm-hmm.
And at the beginning, you're starting to finding something maybe not suitable for you. Maybe some empty holes you will find. You'll
Mm-hmm.
definitely find something inside you.
Mm-hmm.
But the whole vibes of the movement of finding yourself doesn't really explains for me, for now, what people should find inside of themselves. What do you think about it?
Yeah, okay. So if I understood that correctly, it's how do you distinguish between your truth and...
No, I was like more simpler. Like, all right, we have a group things, and yeah, we're living in the groups, and there are a lot of people who don't know themselves, right? And but what actually we're supposed to find inside of ourselves? Maybe you will find nothing.
Okay, so that's not a simpler question. That's a big question. The most important thing is to distinguish between a mind-made, a mental truth, and that you've been conditioned with, that your group is telling you everyone's believing the same thing, but it's kind of a blind mental belief, versus a real truth that you are not willing to compromise, that is not going to be swayed by others' opinions, that is not going to be swayed by advertising. That's your truth. And it doesn't clash with any, so this is how you can tell the difference. Your truth doesn't clash with the truth of others. You're just so rock solid in that knowing, that inner knowing, you don't care what anybody else says. They should have their own truth. Well, hopefully they have their inner truth and they can stand in that. But you don't feel defensive just because somebody else thinks something different. So that's your inner truth. A mind-made truth, mental truth, immediately goes on the defensive. Like, no, I believe this way, and that's not true, and this is how cluster effects happen. This is how people just search more and more of what they already believe in. And then the algorithms just give you more and more what you already believe in. And so you wind up very isolated. But it's just this closed off, defensive, protective energy that I call it a truth structure. It's your control grid.
So they need something to as an opposition of somebody's argument, because they don't have their own like solid groundings inside of themselves.
Yeah, exactly. They're living more from imprinted truths, conditioned truths, mental truths that are based on comparison and things like that. Yeah. And that's a fickle truth. That's an unstable foundation. So somebody else comes along, or you read a headline and that says something else, you immediately feel triggered, you feel offended, you feel defensive. So that's kind of the more practical answer to, what are they supposed to find within themselves? This is just your inner truth, your inner voice, your purpose, right? Your calling, your blueprint, right? It's amazing to think that there's billions and trillions of creatures, and every single one of us has like a unique blueprint, a unique calling, a unique purpose. It comes from your suffering. The things that you feel challenged by become your calling. It's again, mind may not like to think of it that way, but that's the design of life. The things that you feel challenged by, that you have to work through, they are the ones that you become an expert at because you've worked through them. And now you have the authenticity, the real experience from which you can help others. And they see that in you. You're not just talk. And so we resist, our suffering, but ultimately that's where life is pulling us. This is where you're going to be an expert and where you can help others. And initially, it's all about ourselves. We work on ourselves, me, in a good, healthy way. It's not selfish. But then eventually, when we heal, when we work through different things, then our energy opens up and we naturally want to be of service. You can't even help it. People will feel, they'll see that in you, and they'll gravitate to you and ask for advice or need support or help. You just become that because you have this strong consciousness, a strong energy around a particular topic because you've lived it. You've been through it. So those are the things that, those are the things you're good at is what you suffered through. Yeah. All right. Entertainment. You never see happy people just sitting there by themselves, laughing or reading maybe you see somebody reading a book and it's like thought of as a calm activity or something, but they're not happy. There's no images of people by themselves being happy. You can't find them. And so this is what imprints on us all the time, that being by myself, I can't be happy. I won't be happy. It's not It's not where happiness is found. So in advertising, the same thing. Right? Where do you see people alone, laughing, smiling, having a good time? It's always in a group. It's always not alone. Yeah. What causes loneliness? I mean, it's a serious topic, right? Experiencing grief or loss, right? Then can bring about loneliness. If you lose a person, a parent or a friend, it exposes something deep inside. That loneliness that I touched on at the very beginning is like we're ultimately all alone. We're born alone, we die alone. This is our journey.
By the way, this is kind of the same list as I saw. What causes stress? Literally the same, right?
Yeah. A lot of these, so stress, overthinking. I mean, a lot of the workshops that we do is like, it could apply to a lot of things. Anxiety is a symptom for everything. But yeah, I mean, these are all loneliness could fall under stress as a like a subcategory. I mean, it's all words, and you choose how to do it.
Suffering, right? The loneliness is suffering. I mean, I'm a Buddhist, so that's why comparing this.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it suffering. The suffering, it comes from resisting. Right, you're in resistance. So as a Buddhist, that's the term. It's like you're not seeing things as they are. You want them to be different. Something has just happened, and because you had a different plan, because you had different expectations, because you want it to be different, you are in resistance to it. And it's already happened, and still you're in resistance to it, wanting it to be different. And this is where the suffering comes from: is non-acceptance. If you accept this is how it is, these are the elements that are the actual objective reality, and now how do I best take action from here? That's the path of least resistance through life. Suffering, there's still pleasant and unpleasant sensations on that path. Those are your normal feelings, but you're not amplifying them with your reaction to the feeling. So coming out of resistance, getting into flow, that's what that is, to be in the zone. That's how you move through life and not linger on something that's already in the past. The moment it happens, it's already in the past. But we keep lingering, we keep replaying, we keep telling others, you wouldn't believe what I saw today, what happened, and all that. And we're missing out on all the new moments in the meantime, right? So this lingering it robs us of aliveness and flow and positive momentum. And it's just suffering. It's living out of sync with life. Life's happening, and we're just in this hiccup pattern of reacting to one thing and then kind of like coming out of that reaction, missing out on life in the meantime. Then we react to the next thing, and then we do it again. And this is suffering. If you can go down to the micro level, labeling is suffering. Assigning meaning to something is suffering. Calling a tree is suffering. You're no longer experiencing it. You've created distance to the tree. You've come into your head, and now the tree is a thing. I'm over here. It's over there. You're separate. You're no longer experiencing each other's presence, and so you create the separateness, hits of separateness all day long by labeling, defining, judging, good or bad. And there's a deep suffering in all of that because you're experiencing yourself as separate from life. This is the story of Adam and Eve, how they ate from the tree of knowledge. They had it made, unity consciousness, paradise, Garden of Eden, everything they wanted. But once they ate from the tree of knowledge, they got into their head, started thinking, started identifying with their thoughts, and that represents the expulsion from paradise. And now they're having to navigate through thought, and that is suffering. No longer just being. Yeah. All right. Good stuff. Got to be. No. Go back. There's a lot here. Going through a relationship breakup, right? What is the reason you got into the relationship in the first place?
Loneliness.
Yes. What is the reason you stayed in that relationship much longer than you needed to? Loneliness. Yes. So it's just becoming aware of these things, because it could be years that you spend, just covering up your discomfort with being by yourself. Yeah, covering up. Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's all about more mindfulness, more awareness, more efficiency, and making better decisions. Making decisions not from loneliness, from lack, from insecurity, because the ingredient that goes, the motivation, right, that goes into the action, it will be present in the fruit, in the harvest. Right? That's typical Buddhist talk. It's like your volition, the quality of your motivation. If it comes from jealousy or fear or loneliness, any action you take from that, look at the results. It'll contain that impurity, as they call it. Retirement, right? We've been promised the heaven at the end of all this work and those decades of slavery, and then finally you're free, and what happens? You just fall into this whole depression. You're lonely, or you may lose a partner. Again, it's just life doesn't happen the way it's planned, and nothing ever does. Ask anyone at any stage of life: has your life happened the way you planned? You will never find anyone who says, yeah, it happened exactly the way I planned. It just doesn't work that way. What we come up within our heads, our minds, in terms of, oh, my life is going to go like this, like this, like this, like this, in like 5 bullets, is not how life works. There's too many energies at play. It's unpredictable. Can you predict the future? Anyone? No one can. Yet we keep living like we can. And we keep repeating that. And then it's different than we expected, than we had planned, and then we're upset. Then we set the next goal, and we try to steer and control our environment to avoid all the stuff, all the loneliness, the fear, the jealousy, and the lack of confidence. And then in reality, when the moment comes, is always different again. So again, coming back to accepting it as it is, and then taking action from there. That's the clearest, cleanest, most efficient path through a situation. Before you can do that, you need to make peace with the situation, right? That's where you'll deepen, right? So situation comes along that you've been waiting for, you predicted and planned for, and it's different than you'd hoped. The children that you had are not loving you back the way you expected, or they're not even interested in the career path you wanted them to take, all this stuff. And you can fight it. That's the worst option, because everyone suffers if you stay in resistance to what is, or you can make peace with it. And so you will deepen from that activity of making peace. So that's just how life works. You don't have to be into self-help or self-development or spiritual at all. It's just going through life, manifesting situations from lack, and then making peace with them when they turn out to be different than what you expected, which is always. That's kind of the middle road. Everyone travels that. And you will deepen. Friends or something who you haven't seen in years, you see them again, you can see how they've deepened. You can see how they're more mature. It has nothing to do with age. It has to do with there's a wisdom there now. It's because they've had you. There are long enough intervals for you to see it. What's happening all the time is that when the situation doesn't match our expectations, we have a choice to either resist and fight it, or accept it. Eventually, everyone accepts it, and even if you fight it at first. And the acceptance of it, the making peace with it, deepens you. You let go. There's something in you that just lets go of control. And that you move forward with then, this relaxed sense of, I don't need to control everything. It's just incremental for most people, but it does the job, right? It gets you there. It gets you to relax and come out of this obsession with control. It just doesn't work. Those of us who are taking workshops like this or meditating, as you mentioned, we have a leg up, right? We're on the fast track, because we don't have to wait to manifest from lack to create this big situation that maybe takes years or decades out of our life for us to learn that lesson, And we can work on what's stuck currently. We can just spend more time. Every hour you spend meditating like that, there's going to be some insights that you now don't need to live it out as you might otherwise would have. And that'll make for a smoother, more when you talked about not knowing who you are, well, this is how you get to know who you are, what you're here for. And then you can get to that place of being of service sooner. What's that?
By what? Sorry. Could you repeat again? This is what,
just spending time with yourself, even if it's just a nature walk, right? Or a meditation. But,
for me, this is the... I don't have wisdom like Buddha or somebody else, right? But for me, it's still the question of two parts of our life. It's at the right, at the one side, you have your human traits, you have your needs, you have to pay your bills, right? But yeah, here is the situation. You have to pay your bills, so you are spending your energy to think about like how to earn some money. But at the same time, I had a lot of these situations when you're investing lots of energy to something, and the barrier, like it's like an invisible barrier that you cannot overcome. But for example, you need to find a job. This is my current case. Yeah. But the barrier you have, your barrier based on your experience, all of your sufferings, etc., is growing as much as you're getting to the solution to this issue. So it's basically, for me, it's like what you've been talking about. Like you're investing some energy into solving the issue, but it's not getting solved. And for me, even if I'm into spirituality a lot, into meditation too, it's so unnatural. Like, okay, I need to, like, for example, I need to find a job. You're not going to spend money just relaxing, right? You have to, I don't know, do something, right?
Well,
so this is two sides of the problem.
So,
Nature.
yeah, I think the solution comes from not seeing them as two sides. So you can find yourself in everything. And in fact, you find yourself best and most by doing nothing. Like you discover yourself in the doing. You can't sit on the sofa and just, think about stuff. It's not real. You have to start doing, lean into it, take one or two steps into this direction, and then you'll see what's real. You'll see what resonates, what doesn't. And if it doesn't, you can back out and then go into here, explore. There are a few things maybe you have like an instant blink, like intuitive. No, this is not for me. This is for me. And you don't even have to like try it, and you might know it. Some people are like that. But for the most part, it's just explore. And your inner voice your intuition doesn't speak up when you're just sitting on the couch thinking about stuff. There's not enough there. It's not real enough for it to say, oh, this resonates and what doesn't. If you're sitting there and you think, oh, this is great, it's probably your head. But actually go into that situation, start doing, and make it a co-creative process. Make it real.
Yeah, I just maybe got you in a different way. Like, for example, the retirement. For example, you're getting fired, retired. It's kind of so stressful for you. So you can be focused on this situation. Trying to find a new job, etc. So it's kind of suffering from my perspective.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I got your one of the sentences that you were talking about. Instead of, maybe I'm not right. Instead of focusing on these cases or things that makes you feel not good, you can do something different.
you can, it's not necessarily doing something different. It's just looking at it in a different way, meaning you just got, and everyone, you can ask anyone, even in your own life, there's probably an example or multiple examples where something happened and at the time it felt like a tragedy. It was like just awful. It was the worst thing ever. That later on you then saw, well, that's actually, it turned into a blessing. Almost everyone has an experience like that. There's a great a Chinese farmer story of the basically it's the farmer has a horse. The horse runs away. The neighbors come and they say, "Poor you, you lost your horse." And the farmer goes, "Maybe," right? And then the horse comes back the next day and brings 6 horse friends with him that from the wild. And the neighbors come and say, "Lucky you, now you have a whole stable full of horses." And the farmer goes, "Maybe." And then his son rides one of the horses and breaks a leg. And the neighbors come the next day again and say, "Poor you, your son broke a leg." And this farmer goes, "Maybe." And the story just continues. The next day, the military comes and was looking for recruits, and they won't take the son because he broke his leg. And all the neighbors come running. It was like, "Lucky you, you broke your leg." And the farmer goes, "Maybe." It's just on and on. We can't know how life evolves. And to come out of our attachment to labeling, this is good, this is bad, this is for me, this is against me, we can't know. We just can't. And to stay consumed in that space of controlling and assigning so much meaning to everything because we think it's going to go a particular way. This is big suffering, right? And suffering with a capital S. And then the little suffering, just holding ourselves separate from things by just labeling everything, right? That is even deeper in some ways. So, yeah. All right, let's get through. Let's say changing jobs. There's loneliness from there. Most people stay at their jobs, even if they hate their jobs, because of the social aspect. This is where their friends are. You've been somewhere for a year or two, then you've like tied into, you're attached to the people, and you've shared, you've gone to lunch, your stories, you become friends. And then the job may not be so great, but you stay there because that's where your friends are. I've been a consultant most of my life. The few times I did have a job, like a full-time employee job, I remember being at an ad agency for... It was 2 years. And the time came, it got acquired and something happened. So I lost my job. I was so sad. I wrote this long poem of just like tears flowing. I sent it to the whole company as my last day. I was like, I reflect on that. I was going, man, I was just like in it, right? You just get so sucked into the social aspect and seeing the same faces every day and sharing stories and all that. But is that really to your benefit, right? Are you really growing still at this job in this company surrounded by those types of people? Like you hardly reflect on that because you just get into this routine. And then when you leave that and go to a new job or relocate, then all of that gets exposed, right? That you're not comfortable being by yourself. You've been covering that up for who knows how long, years, because you had somewhere to go where there was a group of people who would cover up any need to be by yourself. Same thing with starting at a university, right? You're used to your home environment. Now you're going to some other state or country and starting college or university, and suddenly you don't know anyone, and your comfort life from high school or from before is your friends are gone, and again, just exposes your inability to be with yourself. You haven't spent time being alone and working through whatever comes up. There could be anything that comes up. But unless you do that, it starts piling up and you're blind to it, and it controls you at some level, seeps into your friendships and relationships and the decisions you make. You don't realize that you're avoiding something inside, and you make these big decisions to be with somebody or take on a job because somewhere deep inside you're like not even consciously aware that you're taking this job just so you won't have to be alone. or a big part of that decision is infused by that. I'll have a social circle again, and I'll be with people, be seen, all of that. Moving into a new area or country, I mean, people that come here, right? This is why we suggested this workshop. Is people come here and they don't know anybody, and a lot of them are on their own journey. They're solo travelers. There's a reason for that, because for some reason they've started becoming more self-aware and like kind of broke out of their safe comfort zone, their home group, their circle of friends. They tend to identify as black sheep of the family, and now they're out there and on a journey of self-discovery. And that's a lot of people are doing that are coming here, are doing exactly that, because we didn't have the chance before. And you have to like break out of the system in a big way in order to carve out a real necessary chunk of time to get to know yourself and work through the stuff. Because that suffering, right? We talked about suffering, that suffering from being in misalignment and carrying all that stuckness and not really knowing what it is, it starts to simmer and starts to surface. At some point you get to like you have to change. That's when you quit your job, even though it was maybe nice or comfortable. That's when you like go to a foreign country and or start traveling by yourself, and suddenly you're willing to do these things because there's something about you that's saying something has to change. It can't keep going like this. This can't be it. This can't be how the rest of my life is going to go. Just the same old, and it's not working anymore. This promise that society tells us, you do this and this, the next milestone will make you happy, and then you get there and you may be happy for a little bit, but it's temporary happiness. It fades again. Everything comes and goes on the outside. The permanent happiness that you're looking for is within, but you haven't spent time nurturing that. Then you just work for the next milestone, and again the same thing happens. So you get to a point, everyone kind of gets to a point where like, this isn't working, enough of this. And then so they start searching that, listening to podcasts, reading blogs, traveling, and this whole inner world starts to open up. Cocaine? they might escape. Well, you talk about escapism, right? So it gets more extreme and more extreme, is that you're trying to avoid, you binge eat, binge TV show, watch, binge this, binge that. And it's like all of that is avoidance behavior, just to numb out, because your day or the week was so soul crushing that you just have to numb out from that. And years can go by living that way.
The world is going that way, and for some reason it's going that way because of the business, because of the big companies, because of the GDP, etc. But it's not so good for us as a human being.
Yeah, well, it all builds contrast, right? This is a bigger question of what's happening. Just like with an individual, we just talked about how like you have to suffer to get to a point, because you've been living just blindly, unconsciously, going to the job. It's not really, you're not growing in any way, but you're comfortable meeting your friends and colleagues and all that. And year after year, and then you start to feel dead inside.
Yeah.
And then somehow you just like, I can't do this anymore. It has to get bad enough. The contrast of what it's like not to be in alignment is growing during all those years. And then it gets to a point where that energy buildup of misalignment catapults you out of that and says, doesn't matter what, I'm getting out of here. I don't care how much salary I'm making. I have to get out of here. And then you explore. So that's fuel, that unconscious fuel, energy is your fuel to then kind of excel into consciousness. And so as that happens at the individual level, it also happens at the collective level. And that's exactly what's happening now with the world. Just deep unconsciousness. And that can take a long time, because collectively you're dealing with just huge numbers of people that collectively have to get to the point where they're fed up. There's some examples, if you were on the wrong side, which my parents were on the last cattle train out of Czechoslovakia before communists came in and the wall came up and got sealed off. And if you were on the one side, you were in darkness for 30, 40 years. And then the people had enough, but it took that long collectively, people on the other side of the Iron Curtain, to get to the point where like, no more. So now you have something happen at the global level, so that can take even longer. And if you happen to be on one side or another, that may be the rest of your life. That's how it is. Yeah. So, but yeah, it's all has its purpose. Like there's no bad really ultimately. It's the duality we live in. We have to know what we don't like in order to know what we do. Most of the things we experience are things that don't resonate with us. And the more you can experience things that don't resonate with you, the faster you get to what does resonate. So just do what we talked about before. Start doing, try, explore, experiment. And just because you fail, that's a whole other thing. There's no such thing as fail. It's learning. You learn something. You learn that this is not for me. This is also not for me. Then you keep searching, right?
I don't like it. Like a numbers game. Just doing more things, you find more things you like.
Yeah, you could call that. Well, you're doing more things. You find more things you don't like. Yeah. Most of the things we experience we don't like, because there is really a more, but they all point to what you do like. They sharpen you, right, to the point where you then just know who you are, and nothing even phases you outside of that. Like it doesn't distract you anymore. You're not going to be swayed by what other people say, because you've built up so much contrast of this doesn't resonate, this doesn't resonate, that doesn't resonate. And then when you do discover, this is who I am, this is my truth. It's not even expressed in the external at first. It's like this is who I am. Boundaries that you set for yourself, the type of people that you associate with, your circle of friends, like without compromise, saying this is my truth. This afternoon, you don't have to be aggressive about it. This afternoon, I'm going to go and read a book. You can join me, right? And then 80% of your friends are saying, no, we want to go partying. We want to. And like, okay, you go ahead and do that. You gave them a chance. You invited them to come to your side. And that may mean you lose 80% of your circle of friends. It doesn't matter anymore. Your time, it's your time, your preciousness, you're so in tune with yourself. They may fall away, but guess what? That presents an opening. Others will step in. New friends will show up. And this is how you keep staying in alignment.
Should you be open to the previous things that you don't like back then? For example, I didn't like torts.
Torts?
Yeah, torts.
Tarts?
Yeah,
like a cake?
It's so sweet,
Okay.
But someday I would like. I found the good one. Yeah, maybe in a different variation, but I would. In many situations, it was like that. For example, I was, I don't know. All right. For example, I was like, oh, I like Tesla. Yeah. The true electric cars are so good. Yeah, I don't like the gas cars. But then I realized in a different perspective of that, you're not like making less pollution by just buying Tesla. Should you be open to the previous things that you already marked as you don't like?
Yeah. So you should always be open. It's not that you're judging something now as doesn't resonate, never going to look at it again. It's more that you're coming out of your labeling mind, that you keep labeling and judging everything, and instead going into a mode of, I can feel the resonance or non-resonance when it shows up in the present moment, when it's real. So you wouldn't be thinking about, you wouldn't be spending your time thinking about that unless that was an actual thing in front of you. That's again when you feel whether it resonates or not. So it's not that you're just suddenly crossing off things that you don't like anymore because they didn't resonate at one point. Because you're absolutely right, they might resonate again, or they may resonate differently as you evolve, but rather that you come out of this judging mind altogether, and you don't carry with you this structure, the truth structure of what you believe in, what you don't believe in, what's right, what's wrong, what's good or bad. This is the suffering. This is the heavy weight. If you carry that through life and you're constantly looking to validate that and confirm your existing beliefs and keep out any new ones. And if a new one shows up, now you have to compare it to all your existing beliefs, and maybe you can't take a little piece. It's so much work. That is the suffering as the human condition. So to come out of that altogether, so that when something's in front of you, only then you feel its resonance, yes or no, and then you deal with the situation and you move to the next situation. There's no baggage. You're not bringing in the past, this huge past of judgments every time there's a new situation to like apply that to this. That's no longer the way to operate. Yeah.
I want to ask
Yeah.
you, that's not relevant to what we just talked. I want to ask you about I just have to keep going and doing things. I know you mentioned that by doing things you get ideas, you get into it, and really find purpose and find things that you don't like. But sometimes I feel like people burn out or they're not able to the right direction by just doing it. So
Yeah.
how do you apply that into your life?
Yeah, great question. So there's different types of doing. The doing that you're doing to cover up being alone, for example, or the doing that you're doing to prove something to somebody or to please, somebody or something like that's kind of an unhealthy doing. The doing that you're doing out of curiosity, because there's a spark there, you're seeing something and it's caught your interest for something that has a completely different feel to it, right? You can feel like, oh, that actually energizes you and you get curious and your energy field opens up. So track, in yourself what the nature of the doing is. Avoidance and just keeping busy so that others can see you, that you're busy, that type of doing. Or if you're actually like doing out of pure, genuine curiosity, interest, and there's something there that infuses you with a little magic. Right? Because it's the unknown. And to engage with the unknown, this is where, the creativity lives. So Deepak Chopra always says, when you feel uncertain, the uncertainty, it's uncomfortable, but that is where creativity comes from that uncertainty, from the unknown. Deepak Chopra. Yes, it's in his 7 Habits of in that book, right? 7 Spiritual Laws or something. How uncertainty is a sign that you're actually with the source of creativity now, and that's because it's the unknown, and that's where everything comes from.
Sometimes I get overwhelmed by the unknown, just feeling like myself like if I'm in a new area, I'm trying this new house.
Yeah.
And in the beginning, I feel really energized, like wow, I'm doing this, and I can see the slow progress. But I reached to the point that I feel overwhelmed. Like the more information I go, the less I feel like I know things.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just got stuck. Yeah, I don't know how to let that go.
So this is where I talk about, I think I mentioned it before, the mind is great for information gathering and then for executing once you've made a decision, once you have a plan. But to come up with a decision, to come up with a plan, that has to be something that resonates. Is not what the mind does well. So look at that experience as, okay, I'm gathering information. I'm looking at all the options and I'm not trying to decide. That's the part that is exhausting, when you ask your mind to be like, to know you and decide the truth and all. Yeah, exactly. It can't do that. So just stay with I'm exposing the mind to more information. I'm gathering everything there is. And then there will come a point, and when you feel like you've done that, then you can let go. Then you don't have to worry about this part in terms of the mental aspect. Then you can go into nature, you can sleep on it, you can meditate, you can do all these things and trust that it's actually working itself out in there somewhere. You come back the next day, you sit down, and you'll have this fresh perspective of like just knowing what in there resonates and what doesn't. So you have to give yourself that space to just be. That's when you switch to the being. So the doing was the information gathering. Then you go into being. Allow your higher wisdom, your the inner self to sort out what resonates and what doesn't, and then you go back into the doing when you come back, and that's the kind of the collaboration in everything that you want to look for. Yeah, that's fun though. That's great. Yeah.
What did you call it? Analysis paralysis.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And the signs are there, right? That it's all, there's words for it, right? What you resist persists. Like there's these common phrases that are actually really, really deep because, you're not listening close enough to recognize it. So with more awareness, we then go like, oh my gosh, it's true. All right, we got a bunch more slides to go through, right? Yeah. Wait, we got more. People want to decide. This is good stuff. Experiencing health problems again, so that will break you out of the kind of ingrained beliefs. Becoming a parent. Amazing. There's huge loneliness and abandonment and other things that come up. Like big numbers. If you look them up, there's so much research on this. It's you can't even say, well, this is the number. It's like 66%, feel lonely a lot. 40 frequently.
After becoming a parent.
Yeah. Some studies show.
Had kids.
Well, that's the point. That's why they get lonely. Because they thought they would now have this busy, beautiful, full, fun-filled life. And it doesn't match their expectations. And that's why they plummet. Exactly. What's that?
Sorry, what they're feeling instead? Okay, they have
loneliness. Right? Loneliness. Isolation.
Didn't get to the root. I just trying to cover.
Yeah.
Cover with a baby.
Exactly. You weren't loved enough as a kid, and now you are seeking love from your environment, and hey, I'm going to have some kids. They're going to love me. And that's when I get love. And then they have their own life, their own agenda. They don't love you the way you expected. It's not even love or no love. It's like they might love you differently. Or there's phases where they don't love you because they're self-absorbed as 2-year-olds or whatever. And so you're not going to get, reality will never meet your expectations. Your expectations are too crude. They're based on lack. They're based on control and imagining some kind of situation that is far too intricate to imagine, right? And so we make big decisions based on that.
I'm doing that right now. I'm watching these dogs and I'm like, oh, great, because I have commitment issues, so I don't get any pets because it's way too big of a commitment. So I'm like, great, I can get some affection, some love from these dogs. These dogs are so not affectionate. It's breaking my heart.
Well, I know you could even say like you are almost bound to not get the affectionate dogs just so you can learn that lesson. Because if you got affectionate dogs, they would meet your expectations. That's not really a growth lesson. And so life sends you in this roundabout way your experiences that you need to have in order to grow and heal and come out of that. And so, yeah, that's a great example. Being in a relationship or having a family, yet feeling lonely. It's another example. I mean, people could be surrounded by friends and loved ones, and yet they feel lonely. They were isolated. It's because they've lost their emotional connection. They don't know themselves well enough. If you don't know yourself well enough, you will always be lonely. You cannot accumulate enough belongings, stuff, people to surround yourself with. It'll only cover it up for so long. If you don't have a connection to who you are cut off from God, essentially, your own divinity. And that's a state of loneliness. And that is the pull towards, ultimately when we feel this need to grow, because no matter how comfortable a situation is, we just have to get out of it. That is what's pulling us. It's pulling us back to our true self, our inner divinity. Yes?
Could you repeat again this definition of loneliness? Because I have my default terminology of this word. Could you repeat the...
Well, I would put it into two categories, kind of the Western psychology view, where you have a need to connect socially, right? And that need isn't being met in some way. So it's a very kind of dry look at it. And then the more spiritual or depth psychology is actually a spiritual sub field of psychology that will look at more of the spiritual aspect of not being enough surrendered to a higher power, thinking like you have to control everything and everything that life is happening to you. You lack that connection, that life is a mirror. You don't see yourself in things that you create. So that is a type of loneliness and a type of distance and a cut-offness from being alive.
It's valid if you're talking about the distance between like something greater.
Mm-hmm.
But for myself, I don't really have the connection problems or distance problems with people.
Mm-hmm.
For now.
So that's great for now, for wherever you are. The connections seem healthy, and there don't seem to be avoidance or just filling fillers, right?
Only with myself and the outer myself. Sorry, greater.
Well,
something greater.
That's okay. Yeah. It could be just like you're not even so focused on your friends right now because it's me time and it's your relationship with yourself and a higher power, and you're going to sort that out, and then maybe you'll come back and go, oh, actually half of my friends are not a vibrational match anymore because you've evolved and so life has to be more fluid. Right? It's just not reasonable to think that you can walk through life with the same group of people forever and you all gel. Then you're stuck in a group. You're not actually evolving individually.
By the way, if you are a product,
yes,
if other people or a group of people,
yes, you could call it that. Yeah. All right. Are we all still good on time to yeah? Okay, welcome. Yeah. Good. Did you think it'd start an hour later?
No, I just.
Oh, okay. All right, good. Remote work and relocation, obviously, suddenly you find yourself in a new environment. All this, again, exposes the time you haven't spent alone. There shouldn't be anywhere, this is the ideal, right? There shouldn't be anywhere that you can't go, that you can't be okay with being who you are, with whatever the circumstances, with not knowing, where to find food, or when you move somewhere, you have to figure all this stuff out for the first time. That shouldn't make you feel depressed or lonely, right? Your connection with yourself ideally is so strong that you can pick yourself up here, go here. Your home is where your heart is, or your home is where you are. That was my journey. I didn't have a cultural home or a geographical home. We moved around so much that the big T trauma that I had wasn't from not having a family. I had a very healthy family, fortunately, but the external problem of not feeling like I had a home. There's no place on this planet that I could call home. And so that forced me to nurture, right? That put me on this path to find that home within myself, so that I can have that foundation, independent of the external. As long as you're dependent on the world around you for how you feel, you're going to be jerked around, right? That's a roller coaster existence, and you're always looking for keeping this stuff in place, and then things move here, and then over here you're just trying to avoid some things and control other things, and it's not a good way to live. All right. Yeah, the last one, absence of connection to a higher power. When it comes to healing, I work with people from all walks of life, and from drug addiction and AA to just relationship crisis, to career crisis, to midlife crisis, all crisis. Midlife crisis seems to be happening now. There's a third life crisis and a quarter life crisis. So all these things, and the true healing comes when you're able to surrender to a higher power, whatever that means to you. It's not from figuring stuff out. It's not from moderating your behavior. And you can journal as much as you want. You can do this as much as you want. But ultimately, there has to be a part of you that surrenders control over your life. And that's when real healing happens. Yeah. Okay. So what else we got? Oh my gosh, symptoms of loneliness, and they can apply to, pretty much everything here. Low energy, fatigue, you're unfocused or unmotivated, physical inactivity, sleep issues, weight gain, loss, hopelessness, anxiety, depression, increased shopping, right? Mindless activities. Yeah, when you find yourself doing mindless things. Substance misuse. These are all signs that you're avoiding confronting your feelings. Okay, next one. We had a few of these we've already touched on. Just kind of start moving, exercise, get going, go out there. That will change the energy. The loneliness is a type of energy that it thrives on. It's stagnant energy, and if you just stay where you are physically, you're not moving, it will grow and it will grow. You can very easily get the energy flowing, and if you just go for a walk and take those dogs for a walk, and it'll change, right? Making sure that there's a light on my AC that you can't switch off with the remote, that is impacting the quality of my sleep. And I've called the landlord and I've tried to, I'm just going to have to somehow climb up there and put a sticker on it. But just be really conscious of these things, because little things can get blackout blinds or something. You need solid sleep. It doesn't matter how much you could be meditating for 20 years. If I haven't had a solid night's sleep, all of that suffers. All of the consciousness, all the mindfulness, the way I show up to the world just suffers. It's the basic stuff. Eat, the way you eat, sleep, take care of your body, self-care, healthy diet. Loneliness is kind of a silent kind of victimhood, right? If you can start talking, sharing to a best friend or family member, just to anybody almost, like talk to your dogs. That alone, right? There's something that happens when we come out of our head and we start to speak, and the energy too starts flowing. And a lot of the loneliness is just believing your thoughts. You're just kind of stuck in your thoughts, going down some rabbit hole of poor me, and why does this always happen to me, or I don't deserve this. All of this stuckness, when you start talking or journaling, writing, it starts to change the dynamic. This is what I did. I just mentioned how I moved so many times as a kid. The first thing, it's probably saved my life. First thing I would do whenever I got to a new place, I'd join a club. Join a tennis club, join a badminton club, join a chess club, join a darts club, just join every bowling club, anything where people come together, just so you can start integrating, you can find your bearings, just connect with, this will get you flowing in your new community. These are environments of trust, right? There's a safety built in. And especially as a younger person, that'll really do it. If you want to go to, bars and clubs, and I don't know how effective that is, but certainly these kind of clubs where you're doing an activity that you'll also get better at, so there's accomplishment. And people ask me, why am I can play every sport. You can play, chess, even video games. I'm just so good at everything. And why is because I moved, when they ask, it's I moved around a lot. And they're like, what does that have anything to do? Well, no, I engaged with all these activities through clubs. And that's where you learn and grow and meet people. And that's really where you're doing things where you can also finally, then you see what your passions are. And then when you're okay, I don't need to do the chess club anymore, but I really love, the badminton club. And now you're getting more and more fine-tuned into what resonates. And then you'll meet people who are also more fine-tuned along the way. And suddenly you have great friends. You meet people that can be romantic partners. You meet people that are they're in their zone, they're in their passion. And when you meet somebody and they're in the similar passion, in the same vein, you have so much in common already. There's a synergy there. There's a process, a station in life. Then to try and meet somebody randomly, it can happen, or online, and it does happen. But to really meet somebody because you hear this a lot. make a checklist of all the qualities that you're looking in a person and in your ideal partner, and then scratch out their name and put yours, right? You've heard this before. Become the person that you want to attract. Become that person that you seek those qualities in.
Ah.
Yeah. And then you'll meet people that are equal or elevating. All right.
Wait, I'm gonna get a 6-pack.
Yes.
Yeah, by the way, it's a really good point, by the way, because probably most of the people, they are not getting 6-pack, but they are getting the understanding of what actually makes you value this thing. Maybe it's not. And this understanding makes you not really tend to find somebody with 6-pack. That works with me. Right?
Yeah. And maybe it doesn't.
Maybe.
And maybe it doesn't even have to be still like 1-to-1 so much a 6-pack versus a 6-pack, but athletic lifestyle or something like that. So yeah. Connect with nature. That's always. My mom had triple bypass twice, and what healed her was going out and being with the trees. Nature is healing. Nature is calibrating. It balances you out. Touch, grounding. There's so much research on taking off your shoes and just putting your feet in the ground and what happens. The ions and everything just completely changes. You can look at, if you're into research. To me, this is all intuitive, but blood, before or and then after grounding. If you look at the under the microscope. It's just amazing. It's Mother Earth. It's all built. It's evolved in a way that wants us to be healthy. And if we just play by the rules of nature, of being in balance, then we thrive. Not comparing yourself to others. Again, social media, right? When we start thinking about what everybody else looks, and we know even that, like, my recommendation is, well, you do a reel for yourself where you're trying to make yourself look fabulous, and then you'll very quickly notice how hard it is to, and how, like, there's just one split second that's the ideal angle where you look that great, like you get a sense for how much work these people are putting into it and how it's just not real, and which subconsciously reels, right? Yeah, think about that. All right. And then the big one, be present, be yourself. Again, when you're in your passion, when you're in your alignment, when you know who you are, you have your truth, you show up a certain way, your energy is a certain way, people gravitate towards that. They like that. They want that for themselves. And so everything just elevates the more. If you're coming, I mean, we've all experienced this. When somebody comes to you and they're needy and like they're sucking energy vampires or emotional kind of like neediness, and like it makes you back off. You don't want that. So that's kind of an obvious one right there, but at the micro level, it still plays out. It's like, are you showing up in your power, in your strength, in your alignment, across all the facets of who you are? Have you done the work on yourself? The other person will be able to match that. Then you've got a match, or they won't. But you're no longer dependent on what they think of you. All right. Okay, how many people are there? 2, 3, 4, 5. We want to do this speed connecting, speed dating, right? So we're all here. This is about social connection. So let's have you two and you two and you two. Just for 1 minute each, I'll call out when it's time to switch, and just introduce yourself, where you came from, where you are now, and where you're going. I'll call out after a minute so that you can switch and just get to know each other. Learning from each other. Let's just spend a minute on this. Does everyone have, maybe we don't even write it down, we just kind of throw it out in the interest of time, like anything that's worked for you, moving to a new place, or how you've dealt with loneliness in a healthy way. Anyone have any suggestions?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yes?
I guess every time you're having a dinner, just try to find somebody to this dinner. Yeah, at the beginning it feels like you're in need. You need somebody, but actually, there are a lot of people who are just tend to do something the same. So you will find a lot of great connections, as we know today. new connections makes you feel better, right? And maybe it's the opposite of just not doing something, because you're going somewhere, you're knowing something new about yourself.
Mm. And there's places where it's like intentionally designed for people, like meetups, where you're meeting people who are also by themselves or also traveling or also whatever the topic is. We're doing a nature walk. When is that? The 22nd. So next week or 2 weeks? Next week. You know, things like that where you're just bringing people that have a common interest, and you have an experience together. So there's lots of things like that. Yeah. You just kind of have to go dig through the Facebook groups or our events page and all that. Okay. And any other kind of like something that's worked for you? Even a co-working spot? You're bound to start talking to somebody.
Going to the tea club. It works for me. There are a lot
Tea
of,
club.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we have here a lot of tea places. For example, my favorite is the tea shop. Yeah, you can go there. It's not like you're going to buy something. You just can come there and just sit and to drink tea, and it's completely free. Actually, this is a premium tea from China, Taiwan, India, and other regions. So if you're into tea, as I am, you can think about this.
It's free?
Yeah, why not? I mean, you can go to Park U. There is a place that you're paying for the tea, but this is kind of the different place. But I was talking about the tea club.
Well, there's one next to Zest, the one at Park U. It's a kind of on the ground floor. There's many different. Tea is a thing, and it has that right. That's a great suggestion. It has that right blend, the mix of like you can go by yourself and just.
Yeah.
It's not. Nobody's there to be seen or anything like that. It's like it kind of meets the criteria of. I mean, if you hate tea, then you know it's not the. But I could get into tea. Anyone can get into tea, right? Just try it out. Show some curiosity. Go to a tea place, and they have these. I had a tea person on my podcast who does all he does is do tea events. So that's a thing that's out there. That's a good one. Yeah.
Working in at the big table like I do. So because you're working together. You're seeing somebody face to face, and they're so easy to start a new conversation or dialogue, or to listen how different people speak to each other. Today I was working with a Chinese girl, and it was so awesome for me to hear the Mandarin, like how native we're speaking Mandarin. She wasn't so friendly, so she didn't smile back to me, but it was cool.
So what this reminds me of, and this is beautiful because it's a natural connection, right? You're genuinely interested in what it sounds like, and then you'll ask in just the normal interaction, you will start connecting with people. It shouldn't ever need to be forced or contrived, or like then we get into that neediness that we talked about, and people can sense that you're just kind of like needing to meet somebody or something. No, it's just like you do your thing, go to interesting places, be at a large table, and you're bound to, your pen is going to break, and then you ask somebody for that, and then you start talking that way. I mean, this is normal life unfolding suddenly. Right? Natural, organic, the moment somebody feels some artificial controlling nature about it, they back off, or you feel it about them and then you back off, and like, this is not real life happening. It's kind of contrived. But if you're just operating naturally, you're going to meet people, you're engage with people. And the more authentic your environment is in terms of like, I'm here because I have an interest in tea. Right? I'm here because I'm at a big table and I'm in a big co-working space and I'm a tech person, blah, blah, blah. I'm in the zone. You're just going to start meeting people and talking to people naturally.
Yeah, I found
Yeah.
And like people are all like very open to talk to each other.
Yeah.
Like going to events or even comfortable space. Even sometimes I go to restaurants and just very naturally can have like a social practice. But when it comes to loneliness, I guess it just nowadays the connection you make is pretty weak, especially when you're traveling. Like it just touch and go, or just a daily connection, and then people still feel this lack of connections.
Well,
Yeah, I need the social connections.
yeah. Can you tell when you meet somebody? It seems like even it's just a quick touch point, but you can generally sense in that split moment how deep of a connection there is. If this is just a surface one, high and by, or if there's just a deeper connection there, you kind of sense that right away. You'll just naturally talk a little more, a few extra words or something, and before you know it, you're in a full-blown conversation. So just trust life.
This is a cultural differences, by the way, too. Because for me, multiple cultures have different values in like supporting your first in your conversation. So for me, it was so hard to understand, like to overcome this gap between talking, like first talking in English is a gap for me too. I'm not a native. The second one is just generally, like English speakers, from my perspective, they tend to talk about not really deep things. But in my culture, it's the opposite. You're just focusing on something, and you're completely talking about it, and it makes you actually just be valuable to the other person, and at the same time, like remember this person better. Compared to the general dialogues you tend to start in English. I mean, in my case.
Yeah, and maybe that's an invitation where you try to introduce something deeper and see if the other person takes, responds, and then you're bringing some new dynamic into their life, and that's the value you can bring.
Yeah, like oh my god, my dead drugs. Yeah, just sometimes it was really hard to understand for other people what theme will be okay for them to discuss. All right.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm wondering about your perspective of like living digital nomad and being or compared to nomads. Because I met this couple, they've been nomading for 4 years as a couple, but they felt pretty lonely. And from their experience, they told me that they're just meeting new people all the time and having the same conversation. What do you do? And
Oh, my heart bleeds for them.
they touch and go, the same travel every like
4 years traveling together, poor things.
yeah. So I don't know if you've been nomading.
Yeah. It might be that it's time for them to grow in a different way. They've been doing the same thing for so long, and just those routines are no longer, causing any sense of growth. So they just need to, find a way to change things up. I don't know the exact dynamic, if it's between them. Are they all the way down to, are they working in the same space every day? Can you change it? I work from a different cafe every single day. And different places have different vibes. You're more likely to talk to some people in one place and more likely to be left alone in other places. They have certain types of food in one place and other types of food in another place. And just like you build a big enough palette to keep you engaged and interested. And then, even there, I'll get to a place of like the same 5 or 6 places aren't doing it anymore. And then I'll reach out, I'll ask, I'll do some research and try out a new place. Just play with, you're getting feedback. And so this couple is getting feedback from their environment, from how they've been doing things. And so they should change things up to kind of break out of that. I don't know if they just need more separate time as well, right? Is there enough breathing space when you're working together all along every day? Then that can feel suffocating. That could be the source of their whole experience. They don't realize it, that it's just they're spending too much time together. And changing that up. The healthiest couples I know, including my parents, are the ones that spend significant amounts of time apart. And you have to be able to. You can find the line where like you miss each other, right? That's where the line is of like the desire to be together, the motivation. And if you never miss each other, you don't know where that lies. It can get easy to the point where you're just suffocated.
Yeah, I think when they said lonely, it may be in between them and also their connection with them because they're moving all the time, so it's hard for them to maintain a deep connection with someone.
Yeah, I mean, your real friends won't go away even across time and distance. So that's one thing there. And yeah, I mean, just finding, that place within yourself that that you don't need people around you, to compensate for anything. You want them to, so that you have like a broader experience of life. Everyone has an amazing story. The people that seem like they have the least, everyone has a story. It's crazy. Somebody that you see that looks like they have like nothing worthwhile to share, for whatever reason, that's the impression you get. Start asking them, start talking to them, and like they have this incredible like life story. It's remarkable. Yeah, it really is. So the stuff that you can't make up, like real life, right? These movies and novels and all that, the screenwriters are so trying to capture the real life, and a good book will do that. But real life is real life. There's nothing more inspiring and like it sparks something in you. So yeah, okay, all right. Next one. Okay, this one, does everyone have something to write? This one will just take 5 minutes, but it's worth it. Do you need a pen and paper?
Can I use the laptop?
Yeah. Laptop is okay. No, we have pen and paper. If you, okay, perfect. Yep. All right, we're going to remove some blockages here. So, this will be a 5-minute exercise. Think of a situation that triggers your loneliness. Okay? Write about it, describe what happens, how it makes you feel. And the key is, while you're writing, while you're describing it, notice where you're feeling it in your body. Notice where the sensations of loneliness, as you're describing it, show up. Another minute.
What if we don't know where we feel it?
And just keep noticing, keep writing, describing, and noticing. Yeah. All right. Wrapping up. All right. I'm putting away the pen and paper. Close your eyes. And focus your attention on the sensation that stood out while you were journaling. I'm going to read you a series of questions. You can just answer them silently to yourself. With your fullest attention on the sensation, answer the following. Is the sensation a broad simmering sensation or a concentrated pinpoint one? Is the overall appearance fluffy or more dense? What are the boundaries of the sensation? Can you see the edges of it? Can you look around the sides as if it's three-dimensional? Now zoom into the surface. What does it look like? Is it flat, jagged, bubbly, cratery, or something else altogether? Does it have a color? If yes, what color do you see? Is it consistent, or are there different shades of it? If not, just keep observing. Keep observing and notice any changes in the energy, any activity. Notice if there's any movement, any motion. Is there somewhere this energy wants to go? If not, keep observing. If yes, follow the direction it wants to go. See where it takes you. If the energy wants to be released, release it now. Ask it if it wants to dissolve or melt away or leave you through an opening. However it wants to go, accompany it. Thank it for it's been a part of you. But it's no longer needed. It's time to go. Now return your attention to the area where the sensation used to be. And notice what you see there now. Is it space? Is there light? Feel what it feels like to no longer have that sensation. To no longer hold that loneliness. To be free and connected and grounded in your truth. Gradually bring your attention back to your breath. Inhaling through the nose and exhaling through the mouth. One more time, inhaling through the nose and exhaling through the mouth. When you feel ready, you can gently blink open your eyes. Come back to this room. Notice the energy in your body. Notice the energy all around you. Feel your presence. Feel your peace. Feel your stillness. Stillness is not the absence of sound. It is the presence of consciousness. Good work.